What up? Thank you so much for taking the time to check out this video. My name is Ryver. I'm the intersectional astrologer and Reiki master of Psyche and Soul Astrology. My mission is to help you remain grounded and empowered while you accelerate your growth. And to do that this week, we'll be talking about two different things happening in Pisces. I'm gonna combine the moon video with this week's Armchair Astrology episode. I think we're on episode number 5, maybe even number 6. And we'll be talking about Mercury Retrograde in the sign of Pisces and also the upcoming new moon in the sign of Pisces. Now, personal moment, I'm moving states during a Mercury Retrograde, so I will do my very best to get you a regular weekly video, but shit's kind of crazy right now. So I'm going to talk about what's going on, why shit's so crazy right now, and of course leave you with a tangible takeaway at the end of the video. I'm going to give you a little Mercury Retrograde challenge. Yes, I'm issuing a challenge while Mercury is in shadow and about to go retrograde. So as per usual, I'm going to pop the chart up for you, talk to you a little bit while you look at the chart, and then I'll show my face again. We are going to be experiencing Mercury's retrograde starting on March 5th. You should be getting this video before then. Mercury is going to stay retrograde until March 28th. Let me look at my little notes here. Mercury went back, Mercury is in the territory many astrologers call the shadow zone. That means as Mercury starts to go towards the point where it retrogrades, and then it stops, and then it goes the other way and it retrogrades. There's this period, there's this space where Mercury is going to travel forwards and then backwards and then forwards again. And that is the shadow zone. In terms of degrees and space, we are talking about 16 degrees of Pisces through to 29 degrees of Pisces. All of that territory is going to get hit 3 times. Right now, we are in like the inklings, the pre-tremors, right? We're leading up into the retrograde phase still, although Mercury is slowing down a lot. So if in the last week you found yourself daydreaming a lot, dreaming a lot, having a really hard time just getting the old wheels turning, or really fixated on one thing, or unable to think about anything functionally, congratulations. You're very intuitive and you are tapping in to the astro weather, the planetary vibes. I laugh because it always feels weird to congratulate people for feeling strange, but Mercury's going retrograde in Pisces, so a little strange is kind of what I would expect. Now, a few dates I'll give you at the front side, and we'll talk about like the planetary stuff, you know, who's ruling what and what that means for us. And then I'm going to bust out that tangible takeaway. So, dates-wise, we are talking about March 5th through March 28th. This is our retrograde time. Mercury's going to be going this way. Mercury's known for this. 3 times a year for 3 weeks, every single year, this happens. If you would like to know how you can harness the magic of a Mercury retrograde, I offer special Mercury retrograde readings. They are short, under 30 minutes, under $40. Looking at specifically at where the Mercury retrograde is going to be landing in your own chart and how you can use that information to work with the backwards and confounding ways of Mercury, or as I like to think about it, an unusual opportunity to think outside the box, see patterns that you couldn't see before so that you can really tap into your genius and have unexpected, unthinkable insights and creative ideas that aren't really possible when we're doing our normal way of thinking. So if that's something that's interesting to you, look down in the description box. I'll post up a link. If you're on Instagram, check out the bio, look at the link tree. Y'all know how to do the social media things. I'd love to hear from you and love to support you in this period. Now, the Mercury retrograde itself, March 5th through the 28th, but Mercury will not make it back out of that shadow. So if Mercury starts here and we're like, ooh, shadow territory, we're coming back to this zone. And we're like, oh God, we're going back to this zone. Mercury's retrograde. Mercury ain't gonna get all the way back over here to new territory until April 17th. And during that time, a couple of really big significant things are gonna be happening. One of those things is that Uranus will move into Taurus. Bye-bye Uranus and Aries time. Most of us alive will never see Uranus go back into Aries. That's going to be a really big one. Mercury, being in the sign of Pisces, has taken orders from Jupiter. That's the classical ruler. We could say Neptune, but I think we'll see some more interesting stuff and have a better indication of what days and times to look out for if we think about the classical rulership. So because Mercury is going and doing its retrograde thing, doing their retrograde thing through the sign of Pisces, they will be taking their orders from Jupiter. Now, while Mercury's retrograde, we're gonna get a Mercury-Jupiter square. Now, squares, some people are like, oh no, it's a square, bad things will happen. It just means that there's more friction, and friction can often be a very good thing, especially when we consider that Mercury's doing their retrograde thing in a mutable sign. The mutables are Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius, all signs that end and begin a new season, right? Well, they end a season. And so mutable signs are very much about transition and change. So having a little added friction is actually a really good thing when we're looking at change. And it can be an especially good thing when we're looking at change that comes as a result of thinking differently about things, right? Normally our perspective is that we're heading towards something, like we have the idea, and then we're like, I want to do that, so I'm going to make a plan, right? Logistics, we're doing Mercury stuff, and we do it in this forward direction. Wherever we start with our idea, towards where we want to go with the idea we had. But when Mercury is retrograde, we suddenly find ourselves looking in a totally different direction. We're looking back at the thought that we just had, and where has it taken us? And so we have like this unique opportunity to sort of reverse engineer our thought process. And so for me, for example, I started Psyche and Soul Astrology during a Mercury retrograde. I thought about things in a way that I never had before, and so things that in my normal way of thinking seemed totally impossible and improbable suddenly seemed achievable, right? And there's actually a couple other rather famous companies, very successful companies that have totally changed the world, like literally changed the world. Talking about a certain Amazon, that were actually founded during a Mercury retrograde. And so doing stuff during a Mercury retrograde isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that we're probably going to not be able to predict as accurately what might happen. And that can be a really good thing if we learn to loosen up a little bit, let go a little bit, and work with Mercury's magic, right? Now, of course, it would be fair to point out that if we're thinking about like the classical, like Greek Roman gods, that pantheon, Mercury is not just the god of the crossroads and of trading and merchants, but also of thieves and of deception. So, yes, there can be some totally fantastical thinking that we might experience that is not going to come to pass in reality the way that we think. However, let's think about Jupiter here, right? Let me pop the chart back up again. Jupiter rules this, well, the chart for the moment that Mercury stations. That's the moment that Mercury just like dead stops in the sky. And that moment will tell us a lot about what to expect from the Mercury retrograde. So in this chart, Jupiter is on the ascendant, not just ruling the ascendant, but right there on the ascendant. That's a really good sign. It says to me that this particular Mercury retrograde actually brings with it a phenomenal, amazing, expansive, inspiring, really optimistic way of looking at things that can genuinely lead to us elevating our knowledge, elevating our perspective, right? Elevation and expansion. That's what Jupiter is about. Jupiter is not just ruling this chart, but also ruling Mercury itself. This is a BFD in a good way. Now, because Mercury is going to square Jupiter from Pisces while going backwards, and then do it again, Mercury will first square Jupiter on March the 15th. So that's the first date I want you to think about and look at, right? So 10 days into the Mercury retrograde cycle, we're going to get our first big, like, maybe this is what it's about. Maybe this is what I'm meant to rethink. Maybe this new way of thinking that I have right now is actually taking me somewhere. That's the first big one to look at. The next one to look at will be on April 11th. Now, there's something really special about that particular week of April. On April 9th, Jupiter itself is going to station to go retrograde. So there's this interesting sort of like passing of the baton is the image that I have in my head of rethinking, right? That's Mercury's thing. Whenever we have a retrograde, retro, like starts with an R-E, right? We can rethink. If we're talking about Mercury, we can replan, we can retrace, like retravel, right? Now Jupiter, on the other hand, is about expansion, it's about education, it's about philosophy, and so we might re-philosophize and re-educate ourselves. We might find that we are due to this Mercury retrograde time where we really are rethinking and we really are replanning, re-logisticking our thoughts and whatnot, maybe traveling to new places. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm literally going to be moving during the Mercury retrograde. That Mercury retrograde is going to lead naturally into a process that goes from being very like detail oriented information processing to pattern making, meaning making, right? If we think about the connection between planets and the signs that they're associated with, Mercury is associated with Gemini, the sign that is opposite of Jupiter. And so we've got these two planets that both have to do with the mind, with the intellect. Mercury on the like the super up close information gathering, detail gathering side of things, and then Jupiter on the way up, perspective having, pattern making, meaning making, the piecing together of the whole thing, right? And so all of March, I think we'll find ourselves really pondering deeply. Now, Mercury being in the sign of Pisces, it's really possible that there'll be a lot of daydreaming. You might find that you have actual wild, crazy dreams. So with Mercury going through in the sign of Pisces, we might find that we're having a lot of new ideas, like literally in your dream space. So if you ever thought about starting a dream journal, now is a really good time to do so. Now, the other date I want to talk about is April 17th. That is the day where Mercury is finally going to hit new territory. Mercury not only will hit new territory, but it will catch up with Chiron in Aries. There will be a video that I will drop a link for as soon as it's live on someone else's channel. More on that. I'll probably talk about it in the next video and say what's up with that. Now, I actually don't have time to get to the new moon, so I will have to shoot that as a new video, and I'm gonna include this little flub of mine in this video because I think it demonstrates one of the big things that we're all gonna have to contend with during this Mercury retrograde time, which is misthinking, miscalculating, and having to redo. And so, as I'm choking both on my miscalculation and my own ability to breathe and human and stuff, I will leave you with this challenge of the week. Your challenge of the week is to actually go learn something new. Grab a book off your bookshelf that you've avoided reading for who knows how long. Read it, and then maybe go donate it to someone. Have a conversation with someone you haven't talked to in a long time. Go read some source of information that you'd never be inclined to investigate. Or write down your dreams and really work with that. That's it. Keeping it a lot shorter than we have in the past. Thank you very much for taking the time to check out this Armchair Astrology episode 5, or maybe number 6, I don't know anymore. I will get you that moon video in the next couple of days before the new moon happens in the sign of Pisces on March the 6th, right after that retrograde kicks up. Until we meet again, all the love in the world to you, many blessings, and best of luck during this Mercury retrograde season.